Just imagine, in your dream you are doing everything you want to do with your favorite actress, and then suddenly a bomb explodes, and you reach hell. And then in hell, you are punished for the unique work you have done. And this can happen, because today, we will talk about a true incident in which America dropped 2 hydrogen bombs on its own country and lost them, which were 200 times more powerful than Nagasaki, one of which is still under the ground. Now, what were these bombs doing in the air, and how did they fall down, and why were they not taken out by digging the ground? Let's talk about it. It is about 1960 when the Cold War was going on between America and Russia, and both the countries had the technology of nuclear bomb. Now, during this time, a ridiculous idea comes in the mind of the American Air Force that, why don't we load hydrogen bombs in our B-2 bomber airplane and fly it over the whole of America? And the amazing thing is that the American president also approved this idea. He did not think at all what would happen if an accident happens, if a bomb falls on his own country. But Russia's fear was such that if Russia dropped a bomb on us, we would also drop a bomb on Russia in some way or the other, just that we needed a guarantee of this somehow. And that is why, for 8 years continuously, the US Air Force loaded hydrogen bombs on B-2 bombers and flew them over America. And this foolish act would have been understandable if it was done by just 1 or 2 planes. But 7-8 planes were used for this work, which means if something went wrong, the whole of America would have disappeared from the map. I mean, what was the thinking behind doing this? Now the time was 12 o'clock midnight, and the date was January 23rd, 1961. A B-2 bomber was flying happily, and for refueling it, a tanker plane reaches there to fill fuel in the B-2 bomber. Now refueling in the air is a very risky process, but these pilots were pro in this work so quickly. Everyone gets busy in their work. But then the pilot of the tanker plane sees that oil is leaking from one of the wings of the B-2 bomber plane, and that too, at a very fast speed. And this is no small thing because aviation fuel catches fire so strongly that if it gets even a little heat, the airplane is sure to explode. Now the tanker pilot quickly pulled the pipe and took his plane away and told the bomber pilot that oil is leaking from your wing and it is leaking at a very fast speed. So if you can save yourself in any way, then do it, brother. Because I don't have anything in my hands and I can't get down, and flying in the air is not free from danger. Now, on hearing this news, the pilot of the B-2 bomber was shocked because it was absolutely true that this plane could not land on the ground. And why it could not land? Because when an airplane flies, its weight is more than its landing weight. The reason for which is the amount of fuel filled inside it. Because the landing and takeoff weight of an airplane is never the same. The landing weight will always be less. And that is why often, if the landing weight of an airplane is more than the safe limit, then in such a situation the airplane starts leaking its fuel in the air so that it can land safely on the ground. But because the B-2 bomber had just got its fuel filled, it was certain that it could not land on the ground because if something went wrong, the 2 hydrogen bombs it was carrying could explode. So now such a situation has come that even if it blasts on air, we will die, and even if it comes down, we will die. And we will die along with millions of people. So now the pilot of the B-2 bomber started a holding pattern, meaning he started flying the plane in such a way that he burns as much fuel as possible. And he also started dropping thousands of liters of oil on the ground every second. But the damage to the plane was so severe that it was difficult to compensate. Now the pilot decides that he will move towards the ground, but the speed of the plane was not decreasing. The plane was moving towards the ground at a very high speed, and this was the plane which was carrying 2 hydrogen bombs in its belly, which were 200 times more powerful than the Fat Man dropped on Nagasaki. But the pilot had nothing in his hands because the plane was moving towards the ground in an uncontrolled manner. Now, one by one, the pieces of the B-2 bomber started breaking, and when it broke, both the hydrogen bombs started moving towards the ground. Yes, now both these bombs were not inside the plane but were moving towards the ground in the air. Now the parachute of one of these bombs opens and it starts moving downwards comfortably, but the parachute of the other bomb does not open. It was moving towards the ground at the speed of a meteor falling from the sky and collides with the ground. Now none of these 2 bombs had exploded. Yes, they have not exploded till now, but out of these 2 bombs, only one was the one which came closest to exploding. Can you guess which of these 2 bombs it would be? And if you are thinking that the bomb whose parachute did not open had the highest chances of exploding, then you are absolutely wrong. Look, first understand why a parachute is attached to a bomb. When a bomb is dropped from above, The dropping aircraft gets enough time so that it does not get hit by the bomb. That is why the speed of the bomb's fall is slowed down, and the parachute does the work of slowing it down. And the second reason is that while moving towards the ground at a slow speed, the timing of the bomb's explosion can be easily controlled so that it can cause maximum damage. Now look, out of all the steps taken in the sequence of explosion of a nuclear and hydrogen bomb, the first step is the opening of the bomb's parachute. So the first step of one bomb was already completed. In 2013, in a secret document declassified by the US government, it was told that out of these two bombs, one bomb was such that out of the 4 safety measures installed to prevent it from exploding on its own, due to some mistake or malfunction, 3 safety measures had failed. There was only one switch left. If that switch turned on or failed, then everything would be over. Now, out of the 8 crew members, including the pilot flying this B-2 bomber, 4 crew members eject but 4 get stuck, out of which 3 die. But there was one member who jumps out of the plane by opening the top hatch of the airplane without the ejector seat. That is, he jumps with a parachute. But this is a big thing because even after doing this, there is no possibility of survival. The safest way to escape from a military plane is its ejector seat. But if it malfunctions, then it is almost impossible for the pilot to survive. Now the bomb, which had fallen on the ground with the help of a parachute, was in one piece. So after several weeks, yes, no one had the courage to go near that bomb. The entire area was evacuated, and after several weeks after that too, the US Army, using the most complicated technology in the world, very carefully loaded that hydrogen bomb on a truck and took it away. And what was that technology? Nothing. Put a crane, tie the chain, lift it up and take it away. No joke. They really did that because no one knew how to deal with such a situation. So they lifted it with a crane, loaded it on a vehicle, and took it away. Now, the second bomb, because it had fallen without a parachute, it broke into pieces which went up to 6 meters below the ground. Now see, 2 cores are used in hydrogen bombs so that maximum destruction can be caused. So one of the cores is recovered, but even after digging very deep, the second core has not been found till date. So the American Army fills up the entire pit, levels the ground, and goes in front of the general public as if nothing has happened here. We have got everything out. There is no need to worry. You people enjoy yourself. The American government also gave big advertisements in the newspapers of that time that now everything is fine, everything is under control. So there is no need to worry. But why should that person worry? Under whose feet the nuclear core is kept, they have said not to worry. What if it explodes? Yes, it is true that it needs tremendous temperature to explode, but it does not take much time for an incident to turn into an accident. If something goes wrong, then who will be left to question and answer? After that, the American Army bought that land, and it was left like that. Now all the farms around it are used for agriculture. People have built their farms there, and in the middle of all those farms, this lonely piece of land is lying there. So this was Operation Chrome Dome.